Hello, thank you for coming to Citizen Assembly Women, where we can share ideas, experiences, perspectives, and encouragement with one another. I am looking forward to today's topic.
Uh-oh. The internet's going weird.
Oh, I'm sorry. But I am looking forward to today's topic, and I also something that I've written, and I'm also looking forward to hearing your perspectives and input on that to see if this idea can be refined and improved or even shared. So with that being said, I'm going to begin sharing my screen for the opening notes and guidelines. All right. So this is a place where women of all kinds can connect with others to share ideas, experiences, perspectives, and encouragement. We seek resolve for society and the enabling of healing for the whole. We speak freely and authentically as the best version of ourselves, and we aspire to come from a place of love and gratitude. The rest of the description is in the description of the meetup, so I'll skip over that for now. But I will continue to the schedule. We'll begin with going over the meeting etiquette and then to introductions, just very short introductions of ourselves. The idea will be presented and read on the Agora website. We'll express a simple vote and then discuss and then vote again to see if anyone's ideas have been changed. After that, we will move into closing comments to end the meeting. So, meeting etiquette. First of all, we are coming together authentically as the best version of ourselves. And whether we support or criticize ideas, we are here to empower and encourage one another. And you can do that by supporting or by pointing out flaws. We encourage political, philosophical, artistic, and experiential ideas. All ideas will be treated with consideration and no topic is off limits. The designated of idea must be written as a plain text document on agora-ilp.org. And if you have written or identified, I'll skip over that one since this is the last meeting. All right, so when we all have a voice here, when you want to talk, click the reactions button on Zoom and select raise hand. I will call on you when it's your turn, and people who haven't spoken or who intend to respond to a directed question or comment may speak before others at my discretion. So in other words, it's not always in the order of who raises their hands. Each comment has a 3-minute time limit, after which there will be a sound notification, and then you'll have 20 more seconds before being muted. Closing comments are limited to 1 minute. Okay, number 5. Please be respectful. Do your best to come on time, mute yourself while others speak, and refrain from profanity. We aspire to keep comments on topic, but that doesn't always happen if, for example, we immediately agree on an idea, we might branch out to other tangential topics too. Our network is inclusive, but individuals demonstrating problematic behavior may need to be dismissed. And basically this says, if you have a really long, really descriptive comment to make, it could be distracting from the person speaking. So, but if you do have something long to write, you can you can wait for your turn to speak, or you can submit it in the chat after raising your hand, kind of like the spoken comments. Okay. I'll skip over 6 since this is the last meeting, but you can read it. All right, to number 7, to fully participate in our meetings, register for Agora at agora-ilp.org. And this is another website that has a calendar, citizenassembly.net. And we also have a Facebook group at this web address right here. Okay. So with all that being said, we're going to move into introductions. So this is just a suggestion, but you can give your name, location, and or where you are from, and 2 words to describe yourself in this moment. So I'll go first. My name is Lois Diggs, and my location is Norfolk, Virginia. It's really nice because I'm right next to the beach. And 2 words to describe myself in this moment are focused and energized. I always say words like that. Okay, so anyone like to go next, or I can call on someone? Sure, Kay, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kay. I'm from San Jose, California, but I'm currently in Anaheim, California. And 2 words to describe me are I'm very relaxed and comfortable. Thank you. And I'm going to call someone out. So, Nora, would you like to share next?
Oh, please unmute yourself.
Sorry.
Can't hear
Sorry.
you. All right, you're good.
Yeah. So I am from Austin, Texas, and currently in California. And 2 words, concerned and seeking alternatives. Seeking. How about that? I'll just stop with that.
Okay, thank you. It's too bad you feel concerned while you're on vacation, but hopefully you'll feel a little bit better after we discuss things, perhaps in this meeting. Thank you for being here. All right, Cole, your turn.
Hey, I'm Cole White. I'm from Portland, Oregon, and it's great to be here at another women's meeting. Thanks for welcoming me. And I am 2 words to describe me: utterly disappointed that Lois won't be hosting any more meetings. So, yeah, right here.
Oh, well, thank you, Cole, and thank you for being here. All right, so we will move on to the idea. Sharing my screen again. Switch tabs. Okay, so real quick, get this out of the way. All right. This is in the Community Matters section of Agora. There's main, municipal, and community. And the sort of sub-community is businesses to boycott. And if you are in the website, you can join that community by clicking edit communities here and typing in businesses to boycott, and then you'll be able to access, share, support, comment on this idea. So I'll go ahead and open it. Okay, so the idea is to boycott Wikipedia. And some alternatives I'm suggesting are Citizendium and InfoPlease. So into the idea. Wikipedia does not deserve its immense popularity as an information source for internet users. Wikipedia was founded by philosopher Larry Sanger and financial trader Jimmy Wales. They were interested in creating an encyclopedia built by people around the world instead of by elites. In other words, there was a goal of democratizing knowledge. Their first project, Nupedia, had a vetting process that took too long for their interests. So they did away with that in favor of open and instant edits through wiki technology on Wikipedia. Sanger, who created the name Wikipedia, wrote its founding documents. He created the name Wikipedia, wrote its founding documents, and spent the next 14 months as the website's philosophical leader. Back in 2005, Wikipedia was truly committed to neutrality, Sanger explained. For the first 5 or even 10 years, you could go to articles on the most controversial topics of the day in the culture war, and you would find all sides being fairly represented. But things have changed since then, and Sanger now considers the website a disappointment. After word about the project spread on the web, Wikipedia was inundated with trolls who started taking over in a situation described by Sanger as mob rule. The lack of accountability has proved consequential in other ways too. false information on Wikipedia has remained online for years and caused more damage than anyone expected. False information being used by authors, professors, reporters, and members of the media establishment. Milewent, a Wikipedia editor and expert in internet hoaxes, has said, "There's no systematic review system. I'm not sure anyone knows how many hoaxes lurk on Wikipedia. Hundreds have been documented and continue to be documented." In addition, Wikipedia today is awash with money and in the service of large donors, many of whom are anonymous. Wales, that's the other founder, has been documented discussing his speech at the World Economic Forum with the Boston Consulting Group, which has Big Pharma as its client base. Editors of Wikipedia have the option to retain anonymity, but a project that tracked edits by the IP address found that many edits have come from the CIA headquarters and congressional offices. As reported by Wired, some of this appears to be transparently self-interested, either adding positive press release-like material to entries or deleting whole swaths of critical material. So in other words, there are like politicians editing stuff about themselves on Wikipedia to make themselves look good and cover up critical things. For example, a whole section of criticism on the lack of security in Diebold's voting machines were deleted, along with information of the CEO's fundraising for President Bush. There were allegedly dozens of interviews and articles that were deleted from the page on the Colonial Parkway murderers by an editor by the name of Spintendo. When asked what he would do differently if he could start over with Wikipedia, Sanger responded, "One thing that I would have done, could have done, and should have done right away would be to create a process whereby articles were approved by experts." He gave examples of missing information from Wikipedia articles, like the entry on Barack Obama is one-sided and neglects to mention the Solyndra scandal, the IRS scandal, the AP phone record scandal, Operation Fast and Furious, Obama's connivance in Hillary Clinton's email scandal, and Obamagate. One commenter added that the Wikipedia article on the Liberal Party of Canada was missing scandals, but when he tried to make additions, they were removed. He found that some governments were paying editors to add false or distorted historical information. When he brought this up and pinpointed a specific instance, he was banned by a moderator who was taking some form of bribery. Hundreds of editors' accounts have been shut down for suspicions of receiving bribery to edit documents. Indeed, information about Dr. John Malone, inventor of the mRNA technology used in the Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines, was removed from Wikipedia after he warned about insufficient information on the experimental injections to give informed consent, warned against giving them to young people, warned about future autoimmune issues caused by the spike proteins, and stated that the FDA was aware of the danger of the spike proteins. Sometime after the removal of Dr. John Malone as the key person behind the research and invention of mRNA technology, the primary person behind the research and creation of mRNA was changed to John Wolfe, and the inventor was changed to Katalin Kariko, a public proponent of the mRNA vaccines and a senior vice president of BioNTech, a company which is partnered with Pfizer in developing, producing, and distributing their COVID-19 injections. So it's likely there's a conflict of interest there. Another commenter to Sanger's article by the name of Jocelyn Bay reported that she was permanently banned as an editor on Wikipedia within an hour of adding information on Peter Daszak's funding of gain-of-function research and his organizing and drafting of a letter claiming COVID could not have originated in a lab. This kind of experience was corroborated by another user, Robert, adding that he was permanently banned for calling out the bias of editors. It appears that several have experienced abusive treatment when they have requested corrections to articles. Wikipedia has useful pages, and can be useful for finding information sources, but we should primarily turn to other sources for our information needs. For a free alternative, I suggest Info Please, written and edited by professional editors, and Citizendium, created by Sanger as an improvement to Wikipedia. All right, I think that was the longest idea I've ever written. One of the reasons why, well, anyway, but anyway, you can see the sources here. And all right, I'm going to click this idea link and put it in the chat so that you can read the idea and have a reference as we discuss it. So basically, in summary, the idea is Wikipedia has issues. It's run by it's unethical. It has misleading false information. We should avoid it and instead turn to other sources. So if you agree with that, you can click reactions at the bottom of your Zoom, and there's a green check mark and a red X for no. So if you agree, click the check mark. If you disagree, click the no. So we'll take a vote here. Or if you, sometimes Zoom is different for different people. So if you don't have that option, you can just type in the chat, yes or no, and that counts too. Or you can click, or you can type abstain if you want to wait until we discuss it more. Okay, so it looks like Kay is making her decision. Okay, so we have, so far we have one abstain. Okay, so we have 2 abstains and 2 yeses. Okay, great. All right, so we'll move into discussion of this idea. Questions, comments, concerns. Kay, you are up first.
Yes, so I wanted to share that when I first started going on Wikipedia, that's one thing that stood out to me. You can just go in there and write whatever, it's posted and that's done. So I could see how that could be damaging. It's good that it's nice to want to have that level of trust in persons or in people editing, that they will do the proper research and feel the weight, to be honest. But that's just not how things are. So I don't want to get rid of Wikipedia. I would love for the one of the founders to actually put in a system where you can submit the information and it does go under a heavy review process before being approved and shown to everyone. It can be a great tool, but I do see where it does need to be tweaked a little. All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Kay. Sounds like you just don't want Wikipedia to go away, although you want something better. Is that correct?
Correct. I would like Wikipedia to, if there is something that was like exactly like Wikipedia, but had the process of review where if it was just someone going on a rampage, just putting a bunch of false information, it would not be posted because it would go under a heavy review process and then be posted if it's actually legit. If there's something that could do that, then yes, Wikipedia can retire. But if they could tweak Wikipedia to do the review process, then I would like it to stay.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. What you're describing sounds sort of like Citizendium, and I'll put a link in the chat. But for right now, it's Cole's turn. So Cole, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually have a solution to this problem, or at least a partial solution. Besides reading books, which is usually some of the best first source material, or at least 2 books on the same subject. But I'm going to type into the chat something that you can type in order to get all university or college publications, scientific research studies. You type in cite:/edu, and you return only research studies of basically your whatever you're searching for, and then type that at the end. So you return only .edu websites. So, and if you scroll down a little bit, you can start to get stuff from MIT, Harvard, Cornell, and it's basically some of the best stuff you can get. Whereas some of the source material, anywhere is always going to be flawed. Usually with places like Harvard and MIT, they take out the political bias and replace it with scientific bias, if that makes it any better. But you can do the same thing with getting governmental websites. You do cite:/gov, and you get all government information. So you can get FBI information, Department of Labor information, statistics, whatever their official number is on something. You can get that. You can also do cite:/org. Cite:/org will return all the nonprofit and charity work done, activist work done on the same topic. So you get a really rounded picture of what you're researching, and you can be your own source instead of relying on the news, which I'll tell you, like, the news is written by people who are English majors and almost always get the math wrong. Is what I've noticed. And going in and you actually look at the research study, there's a lot more nuance and subtleties that are involved, and really defy kind of any succinct definition or explanation. So a lot of times you need a lot of space to describe these mathematical terms. And I have to go because I've got this radio show thing to do, but I'll leave a little thing in the chat about my group that starts at 10 if you guys want to be there. It's all about solutions. So stuff like this is basically just solution material. And that's all we're going to do is solutions-based thinking. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Wow, that's really interesting. Just a second. All right. I went to graduate school for library and information studies, and we were taught search engine techniques like that. But I don't remember learning about that one in particular. I guess it somehow fell through the cracks, or maybe there was a different reason. But anyway, that is really cool, really useful. Thank you. One thing that I wanted to bring up about this idea is that I cite a number of personal, online commenters on things who just give their personal experience and observations. And some people would say, oh, that's not legitimate. You can't listen to that because anybody can just get on the internet and say whatever they want, and you don't know whether it's true. But I've learned that even big government or official organizations can be wrong about things or even lie about things. So for me, going by the number of people, quote unquote nobodies, who give personal testimony of how they've been treated on Wikipedia and whatever, I'm choosing to believe that that's legitimate instead of a conspiracy about people like trolls coming up with usernames and making up stories. But I can see the other point of view too. So are there any comments on that? What kinds of things may lead us to trust a source, whether it's large and established or just one individual person who's just sharing his or her experience? Thoughts on that?
Never trust sources. Never, unless you researched it yourself. And if you hide behind a source, or if someone else does, don't allow it. But it's merely added information for the conversation. If you're having a discussion or an argument, you've already backed yourself into a corner. believing wholeheartedly, putting your faith and deifying a certain source, whereas it's mostly always flawed. Even stuff from Harvard and MIT and Cornell. Oh yeah, like there's still political bias in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yes. All right. So my modus operandi with this is don't listen to authority, listen to evidence, whenever that's possible. But unfortunately, nobody can be an expert in all things. I mean, maybe it is possible to be very, very knowledgeable in a lot of different things, but I'm thinking that there's always going to be some field that you don't really know about, and you just need to choose to trust the word of someone who has a higher education in it and years of experience in it. I always look for possible conflicts of interests, like where is money coming from? What are the connections to this thing? Things like that, like basically look for evidence and motive, sort of, like any standard sleuth technique. But anyway, Kay, what are your thoughts on this?
Yes, when mentioning what sources or who do you trust, I often find myself trusting, like you mentioned, Lois, if someone can provide the evidence. I like if I'm speaking to someone and they can talk about something, provide evidence, and if you're able to say something that can go against it, they're open to receiving more evidence and research instead of just saying this has to be the way, because then you realize this person's really not going by evidence. They just really have this belief or just feel like this is just the way it has to be. So often at times there's so many different sources on YouTube, but if I see someone and they go, I personally like it this way, but evidence shows that it's this way, I feel like, okay, this person is willing to put what they want to happen and actually lean on the evidence. And I feel like if that person continues that way, then I'd lean more toward trusting, or maybe not 100% trusting, still doing my own research, but listening to that person and saying, they're just not going to say this is the way it is. It's like, based off the evidence, I may disagree that it's this way, but this is how it is. So I do like hearing influencers or people that kind of have that set up versus saying, this is how it is, no matter what anything else says. But I do agree, there's just so many sources out there that it is hard to really put 100% faith in just one. So it's just always good to continue doing your own research and finding out things for yourself, and also staying open-minded that even that too can change. That recently happened to me where there was a medication that I was familiar with, been around forever. And then just recently my doctor
Okay, so I don't know what you're experiencing, Cole, on your end, but from my end, Kay is frozen.
She's frozen.
Okay, so hopefully we'll learn more about Kay's story later on if her internet connection improves. But Kay, can you hear us? Okay, Kay.
You're muted. You're muted now.
You're muted and you were frozen for like 1 minute.
We were hanging on the we were just dangling for a second.
Oh no. And then all of a sudden my light went out and I was like, oh, I'm like, I didn't go over my 3 minutes. I'm like, did Lois kick me out? I didn't know, but I'll just wrap it up with saying that it's just always good to do your research and just continue researching and finding the truth as best you can. Okay, the end, before I get kicked off again.
Thanks, Kay. I do agree with that. And so I know that you put, let's see, it was either abstained or undecided. Yeah, you put undecided in the chat. Honestly speaking, I still go to Wikipedia sometimes, but I don't go there looking for answers to things. So I would be satisfied if Wikipedia just becomes less popular and less relied on. And if people could just realize that, oh, this is just info that anybody can edit and there are conflicts of interest going on, don't take it too seriously. That kind of thing. Similarly, I listen to podcasts a lot. And anybody can go on a podcast and say anything. So if I hear something like really interesting or hard to believe, the right thing to do is to see if I can find information to back it up and to find a source for the information. So my point is that I still listen to podcasts, even though I know that they're not like the like a strictly credible source. I still go there for interesting information or perspectives or stories or things like that. All right. Let's see. All right, looks like I have about a minute left. But the other thing I wanted to say is that there is a section in Agora called Media We Can Trust or something like that. And I'm hesitant to add anything to it because, as some of us have been saying here, it's a mistake to just, it's not best to just blindly trust whatever a news article says. More on that later because I'm running out of time. So I'll let Cole go next. Cole.
Yeah, so for math articles, and you know me, I'm researching math all the time, and suffering for it. But no, anytime I read something on Wikipedia, it's always wrong. It's always got like a negative sign in the wrong place, or some added variable or something like that. It's always like always off in terms of math. So in terms of that, I mean, a negative sign is basically the exact opposite answer. You know what I mean? It's not something that is like totally like a rotation. It's not like out of the rotational plane, but it's the exact opposite direction. So that in itself basically makes me think that Wikipedia is not trustworthy for math, let alone anything. And also, I saw on there that there were, me and Cesare were having an argument, and he quoted Wikipedia as saying that there were around 35 or 45,000 civilian deaths in the Iraq War. Meanwhile, I pull up an article from MIT that cites that 650,000 civilians died in the Iraq War, and my estimate was somewhere around 1 million. And so I wasn't necessarily wrong, wasn't necessarily right. But I do question the influence of partial, you know, kind of invested people in the Wikipedia, and I wouldn't deny if someone posited that there might be state-sponsored actors submitting to Wikipedia in a misinformation campaign or an information campaign that would quell the general opinion rather than incite more reaction against them. So I don't think that basically there's not any FBI or CIA involvement in Wikipedia. I think it's definitely a possibility. That's it. Sorry about that.
I don't know what you're sorry for, but anyway, thank you for your comments. So, wow, I have not heard that Wikipedia is off in math. And the other thing is, that is not something, so I'm not good at math. So I just believe, whatever, like, and it comes to this number. I'm like, okay, like, I just believe it. I don't calculate it for myself because I'm not good at math. But dang, wow. And I also, so you mentioned to me, Cole, about that difference in the numbers that Wikipedia gives and the numbers that an MIT source gives. And it made me really angry at news organizations that reported numbers. I do remember I was reading a USA Today article about vaccines, and I compared it to information from a 9-hour investigative documentary about vaccines, the mumps vaccine, I think in particular. And the person that USA Today quoted in the article was just flat out wrong about like whether something is deadly or not. It's just wrong. Which really irritates me, because I think we'd all like to have a news source that we can trust. And I do think that there are news publications that do have their priorities in the right place on reporting the truth. But even if a news organization does really want to tell the truth and can really be objective, there can still be mistakes. You know, corrections come out, you know, it's not uncommon. So still, you know, it's a good idea to dig deeper if you can. Okay, so Cole, you're up.
So the vaccine thing, some of us have gotten the vaccine, so now you're just scaring me. You're scaring people. So, you know, you can do that. That's fine. But I think you should probably quell our fears a little bit as we slowly die. Thank you. And also, what else? I like that you quoted Vice. Vice is usually a pretty good magazine. But scientific articles often are on the cusp as well, just like news is sometimes. Scientific articles are like under the possibility that they could be so new, such a new science, that it's changing every day. And so reporters often like to write about these sciences because they're like, oh, we just realized like the brain is like there's two different brains in one, and they're just, you know, or everybody's telepathic. It's like, well, that's pretty new, you know. And if they're just like discovering new things or new quantum realms and stuff like that, it's usually changing a little bit more than it's much more dynamic than people would think. So to assume the stasis of that information would go too far. You have to do a little bit more of established science and a little bit more of historically researched and data researched. And, you know, you have to look at papers that involve a few different research elements, I think. And also, yeah, people who are open-minded, like Kay was saying, that don't have an argument, but have like a I could be wrong sort of vibe. Yeah. All right, that's it.
All right. Thanks, Cole. And I'm sorry, I think I misspoke. I said, I remember more clearly the information that was given now, saying that mumps, it was mumps or a disease like mumps, that it was deadly. But the truth is that disease is not as deadly as that source said. So it's talking about the disease, not the vaccine. So hopefully that makes you feel better. All right. Yeah, I don't like saying things from memory because memory can be wrong. So usually I try to qualify with I think, because no, if my memory is right. But anyway, yeah. So let's talk about whether it really is possible for Wikipedia to fall as this giant, huge, popular go-to information source. Like, is it really practically possible for Wikipedia to go from like the #1 primary resource for information needs to, like, just a thing that some people look at and not really taken seriously? Like, is it possible for that to happen? And if it is, what can we do? You know, what are some practical steps that we can do for that? Any thoughts on that? Okay, go ahead.
I yes, just so I understand the question correctly, is it possible for Wikipedia to go from this really popular source of information and just kind of possibly become almost not even thought about anymore? Is that what you're asking, Lois? Because that's how I understood it. Just in case that is I think it is possible. It's super popular now, but if there's something else that provides a better source of information and is easy to use. That's one reason why I like Wikipedia. It's so easy to use. You go on there, the setup is here's a little box, like for example, a celebrity. It says here's their face, here's their stats, and it breaks it up in things that would probably interest you, where they're born, how they started their career, and their personal life. Um, so I do think that if something else comes out that's better and people can rely on it more and it just friendly, easy to use, it can definitely happen. For example, MySpace. If anyone remembers MySpace, it used to be so popular. You could hear people talking about where you're walking down the street and it was just huge. Now MySpace almost seems like a ghost town. I logged into my account, it seems to mainly talk about music, so it's still there. But the next big thing seems to be, I'd want to say Facebook and Instagram almost seem like neck and neck, and then there's other growing things. So I think there's always a possibility to something that can come out that will interest the public for giving them what they need. It's possible. Thanks.
Thank you, Cole. And I mean, Kay, thank you, Kay. And thank you, Cole, for your comments. All right, so you have to leave. That's okay. See you later.
Yeah, sorry. Thanks guys so much. And have a great rest of the meeting. And I'll see y'all soon, hopefully.
Thanks.
Okay, great.
All right.
Bye. Bye.
Okay. So, all right. He mentioned another meeting that's at 10 Pacific and noon Central.
Like a radio, was it a radio meeting? Or
The meeting is on community aspirations for community engagement.
okay. Oh, all
So
right.
that is in about an hour from now. It's exactly an hour and 10 minutes from now.
Yes. Looks
But
like it.
you asked in the chat whether we should wrap up early. I think we can do that since I have pretty much come to the end of the things that I wanted to add and say about this. Except as noted earlier, there are other information sources that are like Wikipedia, but are better than Wikipedia. They are there, but people just don't know about them or don't use them because of habit.
Right. And actually, Lois, I think it's also, I don't know who sets up what shows up in search results, but when I do search for a topic, Wikipedia link comes up as maybe like my top 3 options. And I'm a person of convenience. I was like, oh, okay, there we go. If these more reliable sources could at least be one of my top 4 choices, they'd have a better chance of getting my attention. But I don't see them. So it's almost like I need to zero in on them specifically. And like you said, if I don't know they're there, I don't know what to look for.
Right. So I have noticed that if I enter a search term in a search engine, very often the Wikipedia entry will come before the official website for the thing. Now, I am aware that Google is a major donor to Wikipedia. So I'm wondering whether Wikipedia is getting boosted in the search results for
It's possible.
that kind of reasons. I don't have proof of that. It's just speculation. I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but it's just something to wonder about.
Yes.
Um,
Actually, if we do have the extra time, I can go ahead and search for a topic really quick on an alternate search engine and then just see what shows up. Do you have like a moment?
we do have time.
Okay. So let's look up, let's see. Maybe we can look up, can we go to an alternate search engine and look up Dua Lipa? There we go. She's a popular music artist right now. So the first thing that shows up is like the blurb that says Wikipedia, Twitter, Instagram, and the actual first on the list of the search engine is Dua Lipa dash Wikipedia. That's the
now,
first thing that shows up.
what search engine is that?
I am on DuckDuckGo.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and so it's right there. And then the second one is YouTube. Then there's then it's actually her official website, which in my opinion should show up first, dualipa.com. And then afterwards is an Instagram, and then YouTube, and then Twitter, and then Maxim, and it starts getting more all over the place with another site called Married Biography. But interesting, you would think that dualipa.com should be the first one, followed by maybe then Wikipedia. But that is interesting, Lois.
Yes, and it's interesting that that happens in DuckDuckGo, and I assume also in Google too. DuckDuckGo, I'm not aware of whether it donates to Wikipedia, but there are other reasons why a certain source will rise higher in the search results. It could be because of the amount of web traffic there. If something's really popular, it might rise some more. And also the amount of links that a place has. And Wikipedia pages can have a lot of links. But I think that if word about Wikipedia comes out sufficiently, then there might be a movement and a change that people freely decide. And you are right, we like things that are convenient, like, oh, first result, why should I scroll through a couple of pages when I have something right here?
Yes.
We are an instant oriented society, like now for everything.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't agree more. I also, it almost seems like sometimes people want to be first versus wanting to be right. Like if they have something they can say, they're like, oh, I posted it, the timestamp says it's first, but it's like just saturated with, well, not saturated, but there's just so many things that are inaccurate, but they're just so happy to be the first thing that people will see, or the first thing that is now available to read about that topic. And I've noticed it more and more to the point to where I think, okay, even and this isn't about the validity of the information, but I've noticed more online articles have so many typos. And I think this is a pretty reputable site. Like, did anybody read over this? And it just seems that it's hurry, get it out there instead of wait, let's look more into this and see what else is going on, or ensure that the information is accurate. So, wow.
So if we're closing the discussion, we're going to move into the vote again. And
Okay.
so I'm going to ask you, would you support this idea if it changed from boycott Wikipedia to avoid Wikipedia?
Oh, okay, yes, we could avoid it, but we don't, I wouldn't want to shun it for I wanted to be held responsible for not having accurate information, not like, oh, you're inaccurate, let's just leave you alone. let's put you on blast because you're still very popular. And with that platform, you should want to have accurate information. So more like call Wikipedia out. Like, you guys need to step up your game, do better. Um,
Okay.
Instead of pushing it in the corner and avoiding it, it's like, no, if you're gonna be what you are, then be a good version of it. This reliable information source, then have reliable information.
All right. The system doesn't really allow for that. I mean, okay, wait, it allows for that, but it also allows for very inaccurate information too. So like the system is not built for ensuring accurate information is what I'm trying to say.
All right. Well, if Wikipedia were to say, we're going to say the way we are, then yes, we're going to avoid you. You're not playing nice. So then I would say, let's move on. Let Wikipedia have their, let's let Wikipedia continue doing what they're doing. And even when it's brought to light, their information is accurate and their system of how they're giving out information could use some tweakage and it's really flawed. And if they don't want to do it, then okay, we will leave you alone. So
Yeah.
okay, well, I would say yes.
This might not be so much of boycotting or avoiding Wikipedia as choosing to go to other places for information. So, you know, like the basic, like, oh, we're having a conversation about this singer and hey, well, like, when was she born? I don't know. Let me look it up. And, you know, like Wikipedia, like, hey, like there are other places you can get that information, you know, just go to like Citizendium or Info Please or the official website, you know, stuff like that, you know. Okay, all right, sounds good. So I will take down the idea and change the wording and from boycott to avoid. And I'll also fix some typos. And then I will republish it and invite you to examine the idea. So then you can choose to support it there.
I would support that.
Yay. All right.
Yay.
Great. So, all right. So
you remember.
Right. Yes. The party emoji is not recorded so it doesn't show up on the YouTube video later. But for those of you watching that don't know, I placed a party emoji in the corner since we ended with consensus and agreement. All right, so time to move into closing comments. Any final comments, Kay?
I do, yes. This was a really good topic. I know we didn't, we spent about an hour on it, which was great, but such a good topic because right now it's so much about the information and we're bombarded with information from so many different angles that I'm sure everyone wants to have the correct information. So maybe it's not just Wikipedia, it could be just anything else, but Wikipedia is so popular. So great topic, Lois. Really enjoyed it a lot. Thank you so much for sharing this and for typing up this idea.
Thank you very much, Kay. So in my closing comment, I would like to say that I would like to thank people for coming, both you, Kay, and also Nora and Cole, who needed to leave early. And also, I'd like to announce that this is the final Citizen Assembly Women that I'm hosting. The other Citizen Assembly Women events that are on Meetup with me as a host will be taken down. And it is possible that someone else will begin like revamp and take the Citizen Assembly Women. That may happen, so keep a lookout. And thank you. I really enjoyed the sharing of experiences and information and perspectives my time.
You ran out of time.
The information and perspectives of in these meetings for the 5 months that I've been hosting this. Okay, so I think that is everything. Once again, thank you all. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.